Hello everyone, welcome back to the Pro MMA Betting podcast. Apologies for my absence over the last couple of cards, but really weak cards and the late changes to the cards. It was just really frustrating doing the pod and then having loads of fights changed at the last minute. And the last couple of cards were so weak, I really didn't have any enthusiasm to break down a card for 45 minutes, an hour and do everything else, edit it, get it up. Don't love this card either in terms of quality, but it's better than the last couple for me, and I do like it from a betting perspective as well. I didn't like the last couple of pods from a betting perspective. Cards from a betting perspective. As regulars will know, this isn't just a podcast where I pick A or I pick B. I look at the line value and we go where the line value is. This is more orientated for bettors, guys or ladies that want to make money betting on MMA. So as we always do, let me just recap the last couple of weeks for me personally and members. Now, not the card just gone, the card before. I forgot to put my bets on Bet MMA that was tipped to members. I'm just bringing them up. So we had half a unit on Amanda Lemos at plus 150. Just another low-level women's fight, guys. I really don't get why. I know we've got bet up to minus 200 at one point. It's just crazy. It's a lower level fight. Much like the Ashley Yoder fight the week before, I bet Ashley Yoder the week before because I got plus 135, plus 140. Thought it was a 50-50 fight. Thought she nicked the decision. I'd need to watch it again as a neutral because I've only watched it live and I did have money on Yoder, and it is difficult to remain neutral when you've got money on someone. But I thought she'd done enough to win that decision. But it definitely was a 50-50. If they redid that fight, it would definitely be even odds. Same with Lemos. Should have been an even. I mean, in hindsight, she should have been the favourite. But I kind of cut it down as a 50-50 fight, so I took her. And then Matthew Semmelsberger, we had a unit on, again at plus 150. Didn't understand those odds at all. Colton Minus opened a bigger favourite than... I can't remember the guy's name. The guy that Semmelsberger was originally meant to face from the Contender Series. And it just made absolutely no sense when you went and done Colton Minus tape, especially when you bear in mind his regional fights were all on the Alaska FC circuit, which is notoriously very, very low level. So both small plays, unit Semmelsberger, half a unit Amanda Lemos, but both of them came in for us, both at plus 150. We'll just drag up live betting. Week just gone, I didn't have any pre-bets, just didn't like the card for betting, so I decided to focus on pre-bets. I bet Neil Magny personally. I didn't tip it because by the time I bet it, the line was up at... It got up to nearly minus 250. I got him at minus 200, and I've got to admit I was a little bit concerned that I was reaching on that bet. I mean, luckily for me, Robbie Lawler was even more shot than I anticipated, so it looked like a value bet in the end. But I just couldn't tip it past minus 200, which was where it was by the time I'd done the tape and was in a position to tip it. I just couldn't tip that juice. I mean, in hindsight, it would have looked okay, but there was a bit of an unknown factor with regards to how shot Robbie was, and if he did have something left, he could have posed some problems. So that came in for me personally, but in terms of members, we just focused on live betting. We had a really good night on live betting. Let me just bring up the bets. So we had, the boxing was on first. We cashed a even money boxing line, Sam Maxwell decision. And then UFC, we had 3 live bets. We got Zach Cummings at the end of round 2 at plus 150. We got Ricardo Lamas at the end of round 2 at plus 200. And we got Alexa Grasso at the end of round 1 at even money. I mean, Grasso clearly won round 1 for me. I don't know why they decided to line that at even money. And Lamas and Cummings were just your historical value bets where the bookies overvalue the person that it's not always the person that wins round 2, because in this case, I thought Zach lost round 1 and he won round 2, both close rounds. But they still had Cummings as a a big underdog going into round 3, and you could have snagged Zach mid round 2 at like plus 300. I just kind of hesitated at that point because I just wasn't, because Zach for me definitely lost round 1, even though I think one judge or did 2 judges give him round 1. I don't agree with that. I definitely thought Zach was a round down, and kind of midway through round 2 when those generous odds were offered, I should have taken it really, but the round was still up in the air round 2. And Ricardo Lamas plus 200 going into round 3. I mean, you can't be giving them odds out. I know it didn't look good for Ricardo. He had a rough round 2, but plus 200, the man. The bookies don't learn their lesson. Last one I can remember off the top of my head is Chris Weidman. Had a rough round 2. He went into round 3. I think it was even worse odds for him, maybe plus 240 or so. But yeah, everything came in on live bet. So we managed to bank, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5 units on live bet there. The week before, I gave you the pre-bets where we had Lemos and Semmelsberger. We didn't have any live bets on that card. Very, very rare that happens, but literally nothing on the live betting front. And actually, to be transparent, we did have a boxing loss. It was a pre-bet. We had Sean Porter inside the distance. I mean, all this is tracked anyway, guys. You can see a record of all my bets. There's 3 links below this video with links to the 3 trackers. But yeah, we had a unit on Sean Porter inside the distance. I didn't watch the fight because it clashed with the UFC, but I remember kind of tracking the live betting odds, and midway through the fight, Porter inside the distance was like minus 800. I thought he was going to cash, and then the guy just held on. Corner didn't pull him. Granite chin. Managed to go the distance. So we lost that one actually that night. But 2-1 on bets, 2 underdogs, plus 150 cash-ins. Happy enough with that. And happy enough with the live betting from the weekend. 4-0 on the live bets. All of them even money or plus 150 or plus 200 all coming in. So really good night for members. If you want to sign up for the service, guys, it's £195 for the year. You can sign up through Pro MMA Betting.com. If you want to sign up straight via PayPal, message me on Twitter at Pro MMA Betting. My DMs are open. You can sign up that way. There are weekly, monthly and 6 monthly subs available as well. But 95% of the members are with us for a year, and you have to take the long-term view with betting on MMA. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. There's going to be losing events. We can't win every week. You've got to take the rough with the smooth and just trust the process and trust that we will make money long-term. We've got over 160 members. We've got a private Discord channel that was originally set up for live betting tips, but it's turned into quite a community. Quite a lot of the lads are chatting in there every day, discussing fights, breaking down fights. A lot of knowledgeable guys in there. I learn things off of them as well. So it's a great community we've got going, and we're good at making money. Everything tracked, as I said. Also post my bet slips on Twitter. I also don't cover the stakes up. I don't understand why people would do this. If they're trying to show that they're betting what they're tipping, why are you covering the stake as well? Doesn't make any sense to me. I pride myself on my transparency. So that's enough about the service. Let's get into the card. We'll break it down as we always do from bottom to top. So I'm not sure if this is the first fight, but a late addition is Brian Kelleher, who was meant to fight Ricky Simone. Simone's out. They've drafted in a lad called Kevin Natividad. I haven't done any tape on Kevin. I saw the line come out. Brian's about minus 225. I don't have any interest in betting on someone like Brian Kelleher as a minus 225 favourite, really. I might get round to having a look at Kevin later in the week, but from people I've spoken to, I kind of trust, they're kind of favouring Kelleher and saying the odds are kind of justified. I mean, I guess I'd better have a look at it myself, but probably a pass fight for me. So at the moment, I'm not making a prediction on the fight because I just haven't taped Kevin. Next fight, we've got Cole Smith taking on Hunter Azuri. I know I'm not saying that right. I can't remember how you pronounce his surname. I went into tape really hoping that I was going to like Hunter here, but he was sitting at about minus 200, which I thought, I don't know if I'm going to want to bet him at minus 200 though, but I was really hoping to like him. But look, he probably wins the fight, but I don't think he should be that big of a favourite. I don't think those odds are justified. Cole Smith's a big lad for 135. He's not really. He's very rangy and long, but his stand-up isn't very good. He can't really utilise his range particularly good. Hunter has a freakishly long reach for his size, and the way he throws his shots, it reminds me a little bit of, it's not as crude, but it reminds me a little bit of Oleinik, where his reach just seems to catch people by surprise. It's like he throws the punch, and then there just seems to be this extra extension that comes that fighters don't see coming. So he does have this very good reach advantage. I need to bring up the stats to have a look at what the reach advantage is. But Cole Smith is all about, he wants to push you up against the fence, he wants to hold you there, he wants to try and take you down and take you back. That's his game, basically. He did it pretty well in his debut against Mitch Gagnon. Pretty much how he won the fight, just grinded Mitch out. And then he had a lot of success in his last fight doing it as well. He was, I can't remember what the odds were in that fight, but I think he was a decent sized underdog there. But he had some success holding the guy against the fence, taking his back. Third round, he couldn't get him down, he couldn't get his back. He held him against the fence he held him there for maybe 2.5 minutes. But judges are scoring, kind of stalling on the fence less and less now. And his opponent landed the better shots when they came off of the fence, and he lost. I think it was a split decision. Could have gone either. I mean, I probably think he lost the fight because I think it came down to round 2. Round 3 definitely lost. Round 2 they kind of swapped position. I'm just trying to recall because I done tape a little while ago on this one. Just looking, Hunter's got a couple of inches reach on Cole, which, I mean, you wouldn't think when you look at Cole. I think he's almost like 6 foot, which is massive for a 135er. So he's going to try and press Hunter on the fence. We've seen Hunter struggle with this. We saw him struggle with this against Brad Katona. He got put on the fence. He got held there for a long time. Made the fight very, very close, did Brad Katona. At range, I definitely favour Hunter, but we're fighting in the smaller octagon here. It's going to be easier for Smith to get Hunter up against the fence as opposed to in the larger cage. And he's comfortable holding you there. His takedowns aren't great, but he'd try and transition to the back from the clinch position. And we have seen him have his back taken. Brad Katona managed to take it, but he did shake him off well. He trains at Fight Ready, which is like the splinter group from the MMA lab. He's your traditional kind of MMA lab fighter, really scrappy, tough guy. But he's obviously coming off that knockout loss to Brian Kelleher, a fight he was in control in, but Kelleher was coming into it a bit more in round 2. Hunter was starting to slow down, so this does seem a good fight for Hunter, but I just can't bet that line. In case, I can see it being a close fight. I can definitely see it being a close fight. I don't know if Hunter's going to end up looking a minus 200 favourite here, but I am going to pick him because I think he has a big advantage on the feet, and judges do score stalling on the fence less and less now. So if he can't get the takedown and get to the back, I just think whatever Hunter does at range will outweigh a load of fence hugging from Cole Smith. So I'm going to go Hunter, but I'm definitely not going to bet him at that line. I think he's been bet up as well. I'm saying minus 200, but now I think he's more like minus 220. Minus 2, yeah, I mean, with different books, he's minus 210 some places he's minus 225. I think I probably would have put something on Hunter if I could have got him about minus 150, but that's too steep for me. And even though I normally say I'll go with where I feel the value is in terms of who I'm picking, I just feel Cole's a little bit limited, and I just think he will struggle on the feet. So that's why I'm still going Hunter, but I definitely wouldn't bet it, guys. I don't know what Hunter decision is. We're going to get plus money on it. 0 plus 110 is not great. It's a pass fight for me. The over's juiced as you'd expect. Yeah, no, pass fight for me. Next fight we have, I think it's Romanov versus De Lima. Now, I haven't gone back and done Romanov tape for purposes of tape here. I did tape him when he was meant to fight Marcin Tybura a month or 2 months ago, whenever it was. And I came away thinking that I might bet Tybura, but I think I wanted dog odds, but I was concerned about Tybura's chin because he does seem like a shot fighter. The odds came out, Tybura ended up, I don't know, maybe he didn't open the favourite. I think he ended up closing as the favourite, and I think by the time I'd done tape he was the favourite, or it was even money, and I just didn't fancy a bet. But I can remember Romanov's big. He's going to want to get you to the mat, and it's kind of where De Lima's weakness is. We know what De Lima's like. He's someone that's been stopped in a lot of his fights. Let me just bring up his records to remind myself. He's coming off that win over the durable Australian chap, put him away in the first round. But he got the fight he wanted there, De Lima. Romanov's going to want to get this fight to the floor. De Lima's, he's a bit of a blown up heavyweight as well. He should really be a light heavyweight. Not good as well. He's alternated wins and losses in his start of his UFC career. He won 2 in a row, but since then he's won 1, lost 1. He's due a loss if we're going by that. But he's coming off the win over Sakai. Before that, he lost to Stefan Struve, where he had top control all of round 1, and then round 2 just ends up getting submitted. Submitted against OSP, submitted against Antigulov, submitted against Krida. I mean, the guy just likes tapping that mat. So, I think Romanov's the favourite now. It's tough to pick him as a favourite when you look at he is fairly limited. But it's just so tough to trust De Lima. Now, I got a bit lucky on this fight because the odds opened crazily. Romanov was like a -330 favourite. So I jumped all over that for De Lima at like +260, +270. Fight got right bet down. At one point, De Lima went to the favourite. So I've actually balled out to the point where I profit either way now. I think if De Lima wins, I win 600 odd quid. If Romanov wins, I win 300 quid. I probably should have let my De Lima bet roll because I would have had 0 at risk for, I think it was $1,000, just over $1,000. But I just can't trust De Lima. I wouldn't trust him with my barbecue, let alone my money. So I just had to guarantee myself profit. I'm going to pick Romanov. There are unknowns here. If he doesn't get the fight to the mat, he could be in trouble. But I just think De Lima, you just can't trust the guy. I mean, like I said, he just gets tapped out in every loss. And I also think if you're into your prop plays, you want to have a look at Romanov by submission. I think it pays about +400. Let's have a look at Romanov's record. I can't remember if he's a submission guy, whether he just clubs everyone. He's got more subs than KO, 6 subs. That's not a bad line, guys. +400 against someone like De Lima. He might pound him out, but one takedown, you've probably got a 50-50. He's probably going to finish him, so you've probably got a 50-50 chance then. So I think that's good value. I'm going to pick Romanov. I want De Lima to win, so I win more money, but I'm guaranteed money either way. But De Lima's just someone I cannot trust as a bettor. Even as a small underdog here, he's just not the type of guy I like to have my money on. And Romanov, there's unknowns. He's a big step up in competition, but he's the natural heavyweight. I think he'll come in here, and I think he's going to win the fight. Next, we've got Viviane Araujo taking on Montana De La Rosa. So, pretty simple to break down this fight. It's striker versus grappler. I know Vivi's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but she utilises her stand-up and uses her BJJ in defence. I like Vivi. I bet her in a UFC debut. Got something like +200 on her. I thought the odds were crazy. The book's just overweighed the size difference because she used to fight at 115. She settled in the UFC at 125, but that fight was up at 135. She's got good striking, very fast, very athletic. She's got power as well. The knock on her is her cardio. We've seen her slow down I remember taping her before her UFC debut, and it was the concern then. She's got this style where she just uses too much movement. She doesn't really need to use the movement as much as she does. Obviously, darting in and out when you're firing strikes, but she's kind of doing it constantly, even when she's not throwing strikes, and it just slows her down. But she is good at recharging during the rounds. She'll come out after looking gassed, and she'll have a strong couple of minutes, and then she'll take a couple of minutes off, and then she'll come back. And she recharges quite well between rounds. If you look at her 2 UFC fights, she looked like she was slowing against Talita Bernardo, and she came out really strong in round 3, was lighting Talita up and then knocked her out. And then against Alexis Davis, you could tell she was slowing down in that fight in round 2. Alexis Davis, though, brings a lot of pressure. She's just a zombie. She shot the takedown on Davis in round 2 to relieve the pressure, and she got the takedown, but heel hook reversal and ended up on bottom. But then she comes out round 3 and wins round 3 handsomely. So, you know, she's not someone that gasses and then it's just all downhill. You know, she might have a couple minutes where it's a bit rough, but she'll come back. And then against Jessica Rai, I don't really think that was a case of her gassing. I just think Jessica Rai was the better striker. She struggled with Ai's kicks. Ai's got very good boxing for a woman. You know, she kind of met someone at or above her level for the first time. Montana De La Rosa, not very good striking. She's slow on the feet. I think she's going to get eaten on the feet here. She's going to be looking for takedowns. Her wrestling isn't bad for a lady. She's got some sort of wrestling background. I didn't go back and watch it. I remember she struggled with takedowns on Rachel Ostovich. Nadia Kasim, she ran through. I bet her there, easy money. Andrea Lee, I bet Andrea Lee against Montana. And she did get Andrea down a few times, but she could never secure a position. And, you know, Andrea's not the best defensive wrestler. She was getting taken down by Joanne Calderwood and Lauren Murphy. So, you know, even though she was nicking some takedowns with some decent entries, to be fair to her, she could never secure a position. And she's coming off a win over Mara Barella, where kind of went back and forth in the first round. De La Rosa nicked around and she had a big round 2, and then she dropped Barella in round 3 and won a decision. But Vivi's got 100% takedown defense. No one's been able to take her down in the UFC so far. She's going to need to take Vivi down here. She's going to get beaten up on the feet. And one thing I like about Vivi for a woman as well is her punches are quite eye-catching. You know when you watch a lot of women's MMA fights, the shots aren't that powerful. They don't really catch the eye. Vivi's do. She lands with heat. So Montana's going to need takedowns here to win this or get a submission, or to win the fight. She's going to need takedowns. I have to go with Vivi. I don't even think the line's that bad. I mean, I hadn't done tape, so I didn't bet it, but it was even money at one point, which seems a bit crazy to me. But Vivi was down at around minus 160 earlier in the week or over the weekend. She kind of held there for a while. She got bet down to minus 200, but money's coming a little bit on Montana. Vivi's now, depending on what book you're looking at, minus 175, minus 180. But there is the cardio concern. So it's, you know, if there was no cardio concern, and we probably wouldn't be getting these odds, then I'd seriously be considering possibly a max bet. But you have to be careful with the cardio, just in case it does allow Montana to hit a couple of takedowns and Vivi doesn't get back to her feet. We did see her stuck on her back for 3 minutes against Alexis Davis. So, but I still think there's a bit of value there. I think Vivi should be up at minus 200, minus 220. But it is the cardio aspect that does worry you, and I don't like betting on fighters that gas, because it can create a real heart attack when you've got money on it. But I do think she is a different class to De La Rosa, and I think on the feet she's going to really, really struggle. Next fight, we have Andre Muniz taking on Bartosz Verbinski. Look, Verbinski is one of the most one-dimensional fighters in the UFC today. You know exactly what he's going to do. He's got zero striking. He's going to want to pressure you onto the fence and hit the takedowns and ride out top control. That's all the guy does. He's coming off a good win over Darren Stewart, where he made it look a lot easier than most people thought in terms of, I mean, it didn't help with Darren Stewart dropping to the bottom, going for guillotines, but, you know, he's still got his own takedowns and his cardio held up for the 3 rounds. But this is a different test here. If you look at who he's fought, I mean, he's had some easy opposition. Gareth McClellan, Hector Urbino, Emil Meek, who's dangerous, but especially a couple of years ago, but even still today, just lacks takedown defense. Michel Prazeres, he lost. I bet Michel Prazeres in that fight. I think I got even money. And then he's coming off the win over Darren Stewart. Now, all these guys are pretty much strikers or real low-level guys. He's never really faced someone that's got wrestling besides Prazeres, or who's got a jiu-jitsu game. And that's something Andre Muniz presents. Now, he's not the best wrestler. He can be taken down. But for a Middleweight, he's got really good hips. He's dangerous off of his back. You've got to watch for his submissions. And if I was Muniz, I'd come out here and shoot a takedown on Verbinski. We've seen Verbinski taken down. I saw Darren Stewart shoot a double leg and take him down. If I'm Muniz, I'm coming out. I'm going to shoot on Verbinski before he shoots on me. See how he reacts to that and see how he does on the bottom, because that would be really interesting to see against a really good jiu-jitsu player like Muniz. Now, Muniz does slow down. That is the concern. I think he's got the better stand-up. Well, I know he's got the better stand-up. If this fight's on the feet, he will win the stand-up. But it's whether he can avoid being grounded and slowly but methodically held down and the gas drained out of him. He's going to get less dangerous off of his back as the fight wears on. So it's an interesting one. Verbinski was a bigger favourite. So money has come in. Verbinski was out. He was getting on for nearly minus 200. And someone said to me before I'd done tape, they capped Verbinski at minus 300. And it's someone whose opinion I respect, but I'm just not seeing that at all. Money's come in on Muniz. Line now, I mean, Muniz was at plus 150, plus 155 for a while, which I thought was good value. He's now at plus 125, so it's, the value for me is starting to evaporate, because he probably is going to slow down the longer the fight goes, and it will favour Verbinski. But still, for me, it's dog or pass, because Verbinski, he's good at what he does, but he's so one-dimensional. He's crazy. I can't bet him as a favourite in this spot. If he had one of these normal type of opponents, a striker with poor wrestling, no get-ups, no ground game, but they've thrown him a different stylistic matchup here. And I mean, I'm not saying Muniz is similar to Pereira's, but in terms of, matchup-wise, he's most similar opponent to Pereira's is Muniz. And I think Muniz can pose problems, especially in round one, even if it's on his back. But if he can defend the takedowns, well, like I said, come out and take Verbinski down, that would be really interesting. So I'm going to go Muniz here. I'm not massively confident in Muniz because, as I've said, he does slow down, and there was much better value when he was plus 150 or so. If you're a prop player, Muniz submission is probably worth a look. Let me just have a look what it is. Muniz wins by submission. Plus 400. I mean, I don't think these prop odds are out everywhere. It's just 5 dimes that have released them at the moment. But plus 400, that's pretty generous, I think. If you like your props. Whether that'll hold or not when they're released everywhere, I don't know. Verbinski by decision. I don't think he's finished anyone in the UFC. Let's double check that. Yeah, decision machine. And I can't see him finishing Muniz, even if Muniz tires. It's just not a finishing threat. Let's see what the decision's probably going to be even money, I would have thought, for Verbinski. Verbinski by decision. He's got plus 145 there. I don't think that's bad if you like Verbinski here. But again, whether that holds or not, I see it kind of when it's open across all books being closer to even money. But plus 145 I don't think is bad. We're going to move on to the main card now. I'm assuming OSP, Alonzo, Menifield's on the main card. Whether this fight happens this time, we'll see. We seem to have a problem with fighters that are testing for COVID on fight week, getting rebooked, and then it falls apart again fight week or the day of. But they're going at it again. The odds are similar to last time. I think OSP is about plus 110. Alonzo minus 130. It's dog or pass for me. Look, OSP's a hard guy to overly trust. He's won 24 fights. He's lost 14 fights. The guy does lose fights, and he's, you look at his UFC record, and he's lost 3 of his last 4, 4 of his last 6. But he's a dangerous guy. He's got good striking. He's very dangerous from top, as we all know, with the Von Flue choke. And he moved up to heavyweight last fight, and he gave Ben Rothwell a good fight. He had Ben Rothwell hurt a couple of times in that fight pretty badly, and Ben Rothwell's a big guy with a granite chin. Whether it's starting to fail him now, but perhaps it is. But OSP showed that he cracks because he had him wobbled a couple of times in that fight. Alonzo, Menifield, physical specimen, looks the part. Jury's still very much out on him as a fighter, though, for me. It's coming off that rope he lost to Devin Clark, where his gas tank just failed him completely. And then, I mean, you look at his fights before that, they're all round one wins against, contender series Deshaun Boatwright and Vinicius Castro, who is a very good grappler, but if he can't get the fight to the mat, the guy is absolutely hopeless. And then he knocked out Paul Craig. I bet him over Paul Craig, and Paul Craig got knocked out because I think he did a spinning back kick, and as he was circling back round, or did he get knocked out when he was facing the opposite way as he was spinning? I can't remember, but it was just ridiculous. And then he loses to Devin Clark after just blowing his wad in round one. So, OSP is the experienced guy here. Yeah, he's more war-torn, he's had more fights, he's got more mileage on him. But, I don't think OSP should really be the dog here. He's the veteran, he's got the big wins. A lot of people were just looking at Alonzo and, seeing the 8 KOs, 9 submissions. I mean, I know OSP's cardio has been suspect in the past, but I think the longer the fight goes, the more it favours OSP. It's going to be interesting to see how Alonzo fights here. He does fight at a good camp, he's at 40s. He needs to mind his cardio. I mean, as I said, OSP does as well. And the other thing as well here that makes me a little bit nervous regarding both, really, because I know OSP cuts a lot of weight, and I'm sure Alonzo does. So they both cut weight for this fight 3 weeks ago, and now they're having to cut again. So I wonder if that's going to affect anyone. So interesting side point there. But I've got to go with OSP at them odds. I think the odds should probably be flipped, and OSP should be the slight favourite. Alonzo gets a lot of hype. You see it all the time, these people that get overhyped. I mean, it's a shame he didn't beat Devin Clark, really, because if he got the win over Devin Clark, then Alonzo would probably be minus 300 here. He could get some stupid odds. But that loss has obviously dampened enthusiasm. The public and the books are a little bit more sceptical now. But he's still getting a lot of respect here, being the favourite. So for me, I'm going with a veteran. Just needs to get out of round one, and I think he can take the fight over. And Alonzo better hope he don't end up on the bottom, because if he does, he's going to be in big trouble. But I just think OSP can fight smarter here over 3 rounds. I think Alonzo is the one that's more likely to slow down, and I think OSP will take over. So I'm picking OSP. I think the value's on the underdog there. Next fight, guys, we've got Thiago Moisés taking on Jalin Turner. So a bit of money's come in here on Turner because Moisés now is minus 165. He was at about minus 210 because Jalin Turner was up at plus 180 at one point. I took Jalin Turner at plus 180. I'll let you guys know. My members have got it as well, plus 180. Only a half a unit bet, but I think that was value. I still think there's a bit of value there, maybe. If I was looking at it now, I wouldn't be as trigger happy, but plus 180, I was really happy to take on Jalin Turner. One thing as well to throw in, guys, I've mentioned it before, but you should all go on an odds converter site. I use aceodds.com. It gives you like probability in terms of the betting odds. So if I just put in plus 180 on Turner, it's basically saying that at those odds he's got a 35% chance of winning. So if they fight 10 times, the odds are telling me he's going to win, 3.5 times out of 10. Do you think that's realistic? And if you don't, then you've got some value. If you do, then there is no value. So always use that. I don't have to use aceodds.com, but it's just the one I find that's handy because it will take decimal fraction or American odds, and then it gives you the implied probability. So always have a look at that when you're looking at the odds, and always weigh up if they fight 10 times, how many times do I think X fighter wins. So, I just thought that was value because Thiago Moisés, for me, now look, this is a winnable fight for him. He can definitely take Turner down. He could get the submission or he could get enough top control time to win the fight. But Thiago Moisés has not made the improvements that I thought I would have seen from him, especially being an American top team. He still backs into the fence, like really bad. Just no cage awareness, no circling out, really uncomfortable under pressure. I mean, you saw it in the Michael Johnson fight. He's lucky Michael Johnson done a Michael Johnson. Otherwise, I bet Michael Johnson in that fight as the underdog. I really didn't want to bet Michael Johnson because he's just a flake, but I had to take him at dog odds. And round one, my God, he looked a minus 10,000 favourite. And I only discovered this re-watching the fight. I thought Michael got tapped by a heel hook. He actually got tapped by an Achilles lock. I mean, man, why are you tapping out to an Achilles lock? Jesus Christ, man. I know they hurt, but I've been putting one before and I wouldn't tap to it and it tore my calf muscle. But you're in a fight in the UFC, like your career's probably on the line here and you're tapping to an Achilles lock. Such a shame that the guy's weak up there because, he was absolutely tooling Thiago. But anyway, we go back, we saw the problem against Ismagulov backing up. Even against Kurt Holloway, you see the same issue. He was getting takedowns on Kurt, which was saving him. But he was also doing silly stuff, like he was, instead of using his hands, he was trying to like fight close and fight with elbows. I mean, I just don't know why he done that. It's a major issue we had, and then saw it against Dariush backing up, and he was dropping for guillotines. And I remember watching his fight with Robert Watley, which was back 3 years ago now in LFA, a 5-rounder, and it was the same issue there. It just keeps rearing its head, and I'm not seeing any improvement. But as I said, he could take Turner down. We have seen Turner taken down. Frevola got him down a few times. But on the flip side, he did stuff a lot of Frevola's takedowns. And Frevola's got better takedowns for me than Moisés. Moisés against Kurt Holloway was going to the single and switching to the double leg a lot. Here he's got a southpaw in Turner, so is he as effective using that tool? But Jalen's just, he's very lanky. He's got them big targets, them long legs. They're easy to reach out and grab. So I wouldn't be shocked if he gets taken down and subbed here. But on the feet, it's Turner's fight all day. Moisés is going to be backing up. Turner just needs to fight clever here. He needs to. I don't want him to throw the step-in knee because Moisés is just going to catch the leg and take him down off it. No step-in knees. Just fight long. Don't get tied up in the clinch. When Moisés backs up into the clinch, do not follow him into the clinch. Simple fight IQ. Just pepper him long. Pepper him long. Don't follow him into the clinch. But no doubt we're going to see Turner do something stupid like that and really frustrate me as a bettor. But I can understand why people would like Moisés here. They think he's going to get takedowns, get a sub, or just take him down for 3 rounds and maintain top control. But I'm playing Turner at them odds, plus 180. I think he's got a big stand-up advantage. And if he fights smart, he trains with a good team. He's got Jason Perillo. Hopefully he fights really smart here and uses that length and doesn't get tied up on the fence or use the step-in knees. Thiago, if he reaches for a single, converts it to a double, fair enough. But he's got to hit that on a southpaw fighter here as well. And I'd also suggest to Turner not to switch stances. I mean, generally he fights southpaw, but he does switch sometimes. I think he'd be better off just keeping as a southpaw here. But let's see if he fights smart. But I'm going to pick Turner here. Going with the value. I don't think he should have been plus 180. I mean, what's he now? Plus 145. So if we go to odds checker, what's that telling us? 40% chance. No, I don't know. I still think there's some value there, to be honest. I think it's, Moisés may be a slight favourite for me, but maybe 55-45. But I don't agree with them odds personally. So I'm going to pick a Turner here to light him up on the feet, and I don't know if he'll get the KO, but to win a decision. But he's probably going to get taken down at some point. So Turner needs to not be, it needs to not be early in the round. He needs to have done some work standing to put himself in a good position in terms of points on the round, and then, hopefully defend well on the ground so that it scores minimally for Moisés. Next fight on the card, we've got Michel Pereira taking on Zelim. That's not his name. What's his name? Zelim. Wikipedia I'm looking at. They've got the wrong surname. Zelim Imadaev. I'm really looking forward to this one. This is just too crazy, guys. God, what are we going to get here? Now, firstly, odds-wise, fights trending towards becoming a pick'em. Pereira's still a slight favourite in most places, but Zelim was plus 120 earlier in the week or over the weekend, and I favour I think the odds should have been flipped. I think Zelim should have been a slight favourite personally. Michel Pereira, he's just not someone I can trust betting as a favourite. Now I know against Thiago Sanchez, he fought smart in terms of there was no acrobats. He probably learned a harsh lesson against Connolly. And something else to factor here with someone like Pereira is, why does he do them theatrics? Is it for the crowd? There's no crowd here. So there's no crowd for him to feed off doing all that nonsense that he does. So, you know, would he be less inclined to do it here as well? I wonder. But if you look at his game is made up of being theatrical. I don't think he's got very good fundamentals. He reminds me of a poorer version of Johnny Walker for me. Can he fight a disciplined game plan? Now, I said he did against Thiago Sanchez. He came out, he used the teep well. But it was still a bit of a, you know, because he was fighting, and I know Sanchez wasn't really engaged in the fight, but it still wasn't a great performance, because I just don't think he's a guy that can really fight a disciplined fight fundamentally, because I just don't think he really has the fundamentals down to a T. I think he relies on the explosion, the funky stuff, the flying knees, using his obviously great athleticism, and you can get away with that to a degree on the regional scene. I mean, I'm not going to say you can get away with it fully on the regional scene, because if you look at his record, you know, it's littered with losses. So, I mean, I've not seen any of these fights on the regional scene, but I imagine he's come unstuck trying to pull off some of these theatrics in the past. The guy's a gigantic welterweight as well, looks massive in there. And against, he had that great debut against Danny Roberts. Now, he landed the flying knee on Danny Roberts. That's what basically was the beginning of the end. It was the right or left hand that finished him off, but it was the flying knee that had him badly hurt. You know, a low percentage move. Then he has to fight with Tristan Connolly, where he does about half a dozen backflips inside the first minute, and the guy's just spent. And you know, Tristan Connolly's a lightweight, for goodness sakes. It was just embarrassing what happened in that fight. And Thiago Sanchez, I know he's been fighting at welterweight a while now, but Diego's another lightweight, so he's had two lightweights in a row. He was going to win that fight. Thiago Sanchez took the W. You can't blame him. Get the win bonus as well, but he would have lost that fight. Pereira was going to win a clear decision there, and as I said, he did fight more disciplined. He's taking on Zelim Imadaev, who in his UFC debut constant spin, but Imadaev went and trained with Mark Henry for the Danny Roberts fight, and I bet Imadaev against Danny Roberts. And part of my rationale was, with Mark Henry there, he's not going to be doing all the spinning and stuff. And he didn't spin once against Danny Roberts. He fought far more disciplined. But both fights were really, really high-paced. And Max Griffin wanted to wrestle Imadaev. Now, he trained with Imadaev, and he spoke disgustingly of Imadaev, apparently. And you can see it, because, I've been in the gyms. I know how it works. I know you get some guys that are just bastards, to put it lightly, in the gym. They spar heavy, they're trying to take people's heads off, and even after having a word with them, they still do it. And basically that's what Griffin said Zelim was. He was just trying to knock everyone out, and I think he said he was starting on people from the gym in the car park and stuff. Like, the guy's obviously got a screw loose. He was grabbing the fence. He had a point docked within 60 seconds against Max Griffin. But both fights turned, even the Danny Roberts wanted to wrestle Zelim as well, and so did Max Griffin. They both turned into real high-paced, gritty fights. And the Max Griffin fight, he lost a majority decision. I thought it should have been a draw. He had the point dot, so draw without the point deduction. I think Zelim won that fight. Danny Roberts, it was very, very close fight, and then he just got caught by the punch of Danny Roberts' life towards the end of the second round. But again, it was a real high-paced fight. I think if Zelim fights smart here, he should come out and put a high pace on Pereira, because, I know Pereira gassed against Tristan because of the backflips, but, I mean, if you're gassing from doing half a dozen backflips 2.5 minutes into round one, I'm not sold on your gas tank at all. And I think if Zelim can make this a scrappy fight, just come in, close the distance, put him on the fence, try and take him down, just wear on him in round one. I think the longer the fight goes, advantage Zelim. Now, Pereira isn't the easiest guy to finish if you look at his record, because he's only been finished twice and he's lost by decision 8 times. And he's got 6 decision wins. So he's 6-8 on decisions, which tells me that there's probably historically a issue with him slowing down in fights, I would imagine. I'm just having a quick look at his, his last decision win before he was in the UFC. He's not had a decision win in the UFC, but his last fight that went to a decision, he won a majority decision, so it sounds like it was probably quite close. Before the fight before he lost the decision, a couple of fights before that he won a decision, fight before that he lost the decision, then he lost back-to-back decisions. So I imagine it's probably been a bit of a problem for him. So, if he's got half a brain, he's going to come out here. There's no crowd, like I said, so that might affect his performance in terms of wanting to play to the crowd. I imagine he's going to be more careful here. But, Thiago offered him nothing, didn't put any pace on him, didn't test his cardio. I think Zelim needs to drag him out of round 1 here, make it a higher-paced first round, close the gap. But outside of the flying knees and low percentage stuff, I don't think he's a massive threat, Pereira. But Zelim needs to be careful because he is hittable. He'd shown signs of having a really, really good chin. He ate whatever Griffin threw. He was eating what Danny Roberts was throwing, but then he got caught by that great shot and it put his life. But if he gets caught with a flying knee, some low percentage stuff, then Zelim could be in trouble. But it's just going to be really interesting to see how Pereira approaches this fight. I'm not sure if Zelim's done his camp with Mark Henry. His Instagram's locked, and when I looked on Mark Henry's Instagram, it didn't seem that Imadaev had been there, which I would prefer. I would have liked to have seen him at Mark Henry, because I think that's good for his discipline. So I hope Zelim doesn't revert to type here with the spinning stuff, etc. But it will be an entertaining fight, definitely. I think the line will close at picker. Maybe Zelim might close a slight favourite. I just don't really know why people would bet Pereira as a favourite here when, Danny Roberts, great fight, but, it was the flying knee that set everything up. Without that, I wonder if he would have beat Danny Roberts. I don't think he would have. But he's dangerous in round 1, so we'll see what happens. Next fight on the card, Sijara Eubanks taking on Karol Rosa. I was really hoping Karol was going to open as the underdog here. I was hoping for like plus 150, but bookies were smart on this one. They opened Karol was the favourite, too big of a favourite. I think she was about minus 185. She's been bet down. She's now about minus 130. I'm not betting Rosa as the favourite. I would have bet her as the dog. Definitely at plus 150. I thought I was going to get that, so I don't know, would I take plus 120, plus 130? Probably. But I've got a feeling this might close as a pick'em, because Eubanks' name is much more known than Rosa. But Rosa's only had a couple of fights in the UFC. She's very high volume. She's got some nice striking, but she's very hittable as well. Takedown defense, bit of an unknown. She did take down Vanessa Mello. I think Sarge's best hope here is getting the fight to the floor. Her stand-up's improved. She's at Mark Henry's, but she does slow down. Definitely give the cardio advantage to Rosa. I think she's probably going to win round 3. I think as Sarge slows down, the takedowns become harder for her to secure as well. So I do lean Rosa here, but I'm just not in love with the odds. I really wanted dog odds. Prop odds, let's have a look at decision line. Again, because they're only at dimes, we might not get these lines, but let's just see what it's paying on Rosa by decision. Plus 160. It's plus 160 at Bet365. I don't think that's bad. Wasn't expecting it to be that high. She does put out a lot of volume, Sarge. If the fight stays standing, Sarge is going to have to eat a lot. But at the same time, I'm just having a look at how many KOs Rosa's got. She landed some flush shots. She only got 4 from 13 wins, so she's not a big puncher. She landed flush shots on Procopio. She did drop her in round 3. And against Vanessa Bello, I think her significant strikes after 2 fights landed per minute is at like 10. But Sarge, has Sarge ever shown any chin issues? I don't believe so. She's never been KO'd. Let me just check her on. Yeah, she won her ultimate fighter fight. So I think plus 160. If we can get that, I think that's a decent bet. Karol Rosa, women's MMA, plus 160 to win by decision. So I do favour her there. But whether we get that or not, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to pick Rosa. But I'm personally not betting a money line until I get it. I'd need plus money. But the decision line, I might have a sprinkle, and if I can get something around that. But I'll go with Rosa just to outwork Sarge over the 3 rounds, and Sarge might get a takedown in round 1. But I just think as the fight goes on, as she slows, the takedowns will just be harder and harder for her to land. Next fight is the main event. We've got Alistair Overeem, Augusto Sakai. Overeem's been bet down. He's about minus 145 now. Sakai plus 125. I wouldn't play Sakai now, I don't think. But I did have a sprinkle on Sakai when he was plus 155. Now, I done tape and I came away thinking it's a good fight for Overeem. But just something in my gut just thinks that this is a 5-round fight. Overeem, he's been knocked out a lot in his career. He's coming off that win over Walt Harris, but he got hurt in that fight, but he managed to cover up and get back into the fight. He done really well there. But just in that small cage now, Overeem, he does get stuck on the fence a lot. He does cover up quite well in the fence, but still, you don't want a 265-pound man unloading against you on the fence. But what I also like about Sakai is he seems very durable, and he also seems to have really good cardio for a guy his size. Now, he is going to be slower. However long the fight lasts, Overeem is probably going to be winning it if Sakai does win, until he gets the knockout blow. But I just feel it was worth a small bet at those odds with the small cage, Overeem's tendency to shell up on the fence, and also coupled with Sakai's durability and his good cardio. Overeem decision is definitely something that is worth a look. I think it's plus 400, but again, whether we get that or not, I don't know. They've got Overeem by KO at plus 150. I don't think that should be the decision line. Should be anywhere near that wide. You know what Overeem's going to do here. He's going to do exactly what he done against Rosenstrike. He's going to try and potshot his way to a win here. I don't think he's going to put Sakai away, and I think if he wins, it's going to be by decision. So I'm definitely interested in the decision line. The over was set at 1.5 rounds, which really surprised me. I thought it was going to be 2.5. Did open at about minus 140. It got bet down to minus 200, but now it's come back in a bit. Actually, it's minus 5 times minus 175. I think that fight does go past 1.5 rounds pretty often, because I'd be very surprised if Overeem finished inside of 1.5 rounds. You're basically banking on, if you're betting the under there, I think you're banking on a Sakai finish. And Sakai, he's not I'm not sure how big of a puncher he is either. I think he's got devastating one-punch knockout power. But just with the 5 rounds, it just gives him a long time to catch Overeem with something, especially as Overeem starts to slow, because he did start to slow down against Rosenstrike. So minus 175, it's saying it's going to go over 63% of the time. I don't know whether I'm being over ambitious here, but I think it's more like 70% of the time it probably goes over. But I definitely wouldn't have wanted to bet it at minus 200. It's just a heavyweight fight. It just sounds like a lot of juice. And even at minus 175, it sounds like a lot of juice for a heavyweight fight. But I do think you're basically betting on not Sakai inside the first 1.5 rounds. So interesting. And money has come in. It has shortened down to minus 175. So I wonder if it might come in a bit more. I think that's probably where it'll settle. But yeah, for me, Sakai money line when it was at plus 155. But I'd certainly think if Overeem decision is paying around plus 400. I think there's value there. And this over 1.5 line, although I don't love paying minus 175 on an over, I do think this probably hits 63% implied probability. I'm seeing it more as 70%. So some lines to ponder there. So I'm going to pick Sakai just because I have put some money on him at plus 155. I don't love the odds so much now, but I've just got a gut feeling that he's just going to catch him at some point. And Overeem, as I said, has been knocked out a lot. He's getting up there in age. You know, he's coming off a win, but a win he was hurting. So Sakai is my pick there, but I'm definitely not confident. I definitely wouldn't put a big bet on it. Heavyweight MMA. I mean, it's higher level here than some of the fights we get, but Sakai is my pick. So they're the picks for the show, guys. Good luck with your bets. I'll be back next week to break down the card. I'll be back most weeks. It might be the odd one I miss where these cards are being put together short notice because they're trying to hit their ESPN allowance. Some of the cards were pretty poor, but we're starting to get cards that are being made further in advance now. I've seen fights announced for fights in October, like back in August. So the cards should start shoring up and should be getting better quality again. And rumour has it we're going back to Fight Island for the Adesanya Costa fight, but I've not seen any confirmation. But good luck with your bets. Follow me on Twitter at Pro MMA Betting. DMs are open. If you want to sign up, DM me or go to the website prommmabetting.com. £195 for the year. All bets tracked. Link below this video to all three of our trackers. Bet slips are posted on Twitter as well. Good luck with your bets, guys.